What's up, everyone? Welcome down to the vault. What's going on, Walt?
Hanging in there.
Spider didn't give you no shit today. No red rum.
No.
I think because I smoke weed and I blow it over there, you know what I mean? When I'm down there, kind of cools them off. I see rad bones.
He's paying
Anyway.
reverence today.
We haven't done this in a while. We want to keep doing this. I keep, wondering what I'm going to come up with. You know what I mean? And I should do this once a month. And it's basically artist spotlight. And obviously today our artist we're going to talk about, Walt, is Ozzy Osbourne. And Ozzy Osbourne, I think, is a big influence on every metalhead's life in one way, shape, or form. If it was just been Black Sabbath, or if it was Blizzard of Oz, or whatever Inception
Both,
Ozzy
actually,
played. I mean, for some of us who are old enough, it could be both. I mean, I know so many.
He's 70 right now. You know that.
Amazing. Well, if I'm 55,
what a career,
he's gotta be
huh?
up there. But I think if guitar players that I know are influenced like by even Randy Rhoads, I mean, that makes his legacy that much more, because he played with such a great guitar player in Black Sabbath with Tony Iommi, and then it seemed like the guitar players that he's played with since then, Jakey Lee, Randy Rhoads, Jakey Lee, Zach Wild, obviously,
Gus G.
He's played with some really, really, really heavy hitters, and my first remembrance of Ozzy was obviously in Black Sabbath, and my father, like I've explained before, was a biker, and he used to work on his Harleys in the garage, and when I would go out and hang
over
out
here,
with
that
him,
was kind of underground still.
Definitely. It was tinkered. When I would tinker with him, he had it on, remember, K-San, the Jive 95?
Oh, I love that station.
And it was a FM station that played, like Led Zeppelin and Allman Brothers and Black Sabbath, and that's where I heard it.
My father, too, listened to that.
Early, and I'm, 8, 9 years old, watching my dad work on his bikes in the early 70s.
We had cool dads then.
And I always thought that they always had funny names, because I thought it was Tony Iommi and Ozzy Osbourne and Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward was really on. But back then in those days, it seemed like it was flashy to me. That's what caught my eye to them at first. And then I did listen to Black Sabbath. I loved them because obviously
and the lyrics are so heavy.
Well, just it was
dark.
I mean, it's the only time you can hear Satan's name being mentioned. So it was definitely not
Sweet Leaf. Marijuana was still highly illegal.
Yeah, it's snowblind. You know what I mean? So, and all their experiences with.
Oh, is that what that song means?
With those kind of things, and definitely in the dark, on the dark realm of things. And the first time I seen them, they actually Van Halen.
We were there, but separate. But what a show!
At the Oakland Coliseum.
Do you remember that?
Indoors, and it was Van Halen and Black Sabbath.
Never Say Die Tour.
Yeah.
And Van Halen was on Van Halen 2, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was the first track. I think it was the second.
Do you remember them popping off the champagne at the end of their set, on their encore?
I don't. I'm glad you do.
Okay,
I don't. I think I was really high at that gig, because I remember I would probably been about 15, and my whole thing to do was do acid and smoke a shitload of weed at the concert. When I got older, it was all about going and watching and digging the bands, partying as well. But I remember it was just man, I'm gonna go to fucking see Black Sabbath and Van Halen.
But you always got there early, right?
Oh, yes.
So the party was
at 3
big.
o'clock, or whenever they opened the out there for 3 hours, smoking weed and drinking illegal booze. And every time the cop walked down, sir, how you doing? They walk by and be like,
yeah, it was a thing to try to get away with it.
But I think I really got to appreciate Ozzy is when the Blizzard of Oz, and he formed Blizzard of Oz, and with Randy Rhoads, and the touring band was obviously Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge at that time. And then it was I seen them in '78 with Van Halen
and Don Airy
on
keyboards.
1981 that I saw him at Day on the Green, which was a big concert that Bill Graham, the promoter,
was there at that also.
And Ozzy played there, and I was like, wow, got to see Ozzy. And then the next night, because if you watch the Motorhead one I did on Motorhead, they were their opening act on tour. Actually, Blizzard of Oz was on tour with Motorhead opening in the States, but because Motorhead was not invited to Day on the Green,
That's a huge thing,
weren't there.
Day
I
on the
didn't know
Green.
this. So the next night, living in the Bay Area, I drove to Santa Cruz, which is about 50 minutes to an hour from where I live in the Bay Area, and I saw the full Blizzard of Oz show.
Oh, lucky you!
And with Motorhead opening
with the lights
up.
and everything, because you didn't get that at
it was
daytime.
And if you've ever been to Santa Cruz Civic, it is a very, very tiny venue, and maybe 900 or 1,000 or something.
Yeah, it's like an auditorium.
It's very, very small. But if you go through the years and you look at the way he's kind of just kept himself always up in the forefront, don't you think, Walt?
Yeah, and I think his wife has a lot to do with that, right?
Yeah,
his management.
Definitely Sharon has made along. But, I mean, let's talk about Ozfest and how many bands. I mean, Slipknot was a band that they took a shot on 20 years ago on the side stage at Slipknot, and they're probably the biggest metal band in the world. I mean, not besides Metallica, but they sell out, and they got their own little fest going on now.
Yeah, the Knot Fest.
They everywhere they go. I went and seen them at the Shoreline with Volbeat, Gojira, and Behemoth, and it was just packed to the rim all the way the grass. So if you think about the bands that were on Ozfest over the years, Ozzy gave a bunch of bands a lot of start. They really did, and so many bands got their first thing on those Ozfests, and a lot of bands. He's
been a lot to the metal growing. That's for sure. From Sabbath to Ozzy, and then with the Ozfest, and even going into television, right?
Yeah, because the Osbournes, that was like...
Yeah, that was another huge show for MTV.
And he's got one now where they do Ozzy and Jack's Detour, where they talk
have you
about
seen
history.
that? The road tripping.
I actually like it.
Yeah, I've watched a couple.
You learn some history. Ozzy's a history buff, and I like history like that. So, but I mean...
The Prince of Darkness in a van.
It's funny. But and he always refers to himself, the Prince of Darkness doing this. It's funny. I think he gets it. He gets himself. He gets what his capacity is. I mean, he's an A-list superstar,
And the tragedy of Randy Rhoads, going down in the plane crash where he tried to fly over the tour bus and clip the wing on it. And did you know that actually they were going to pick Sarzo's brother as a guitar player, but the record company had picked somebody else and paid them already, so they couldn't use him. And this guy only did 4 shows, didn't fit him, and that's when Brad Gillis was going to come in. But I'd also like to say that they really wanted Gary Moore to do it. But
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Well, guess you've done your homework.
I had to research a little. There. Yeah.
See your notes there. To me, through the guitars, through the musical changes, I mean, even like, when he had Jakey Lee, they were kind of more hair metal, even though it was still kind of heavy.
Well, he went through the changes, right? So metal kind of changed.
He definitely morphed with it.
With Jakey Lee, he was more glammy, right? That L.A. glam. I think that's a lot to do with him moving and having a place out in L.A. and seeing that scene.
But I think, I love
puffing out the hair. Did you puff out your hair?
I don't know.
Yeah, I did one period.
I never puffed it out. It just automatically puffed out because I had fucking curly ass, poodle.
No hairspray.
Curl.
Then okay.
I never used hairspray. I couldn't. It's just too curly. Anyway, but I've always listened to him. Always. I've never not gone like a month or 2 months and not listened to Sabbath or some inception of Ozzy. From Blizzard of Oz to
timeless albums
to No More Tears.
And I love the Ozzy better than the Sabbath as I did when I was a kid. I think generally I really.
I like them both, but I think I'll listen to Sabbath over Ozzy. That's funny that you say that because I love them both. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
so do I never turn an Ozzy song off, but. If I'm gonna go play Ozzy in I grab for the Black Sabbath Ozzy for some reason first.
But if you had to pick, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, they'd be in my top 10 of all time albums. I think both of those would be there.
It's albums are tough to do when it goes in. We just tried to do top 10 movies and look how hard it was to cram 10 movies in there. So I'm not even gonna attempt that. But I'd have to say. Influentially, is that a word? Influentially, to be influenced by somebody. There's so many that are influenced by Ozzy and, you know, the bands that he has played with. I mean, you know.
Right, and he gave Metallica their big
Master
push.
of Puppets tour, yeah.
He pushed them. I mean, without that tour, we don't know what would have really happened.
Nope, we would not have.
I don't think they would have blown up as quick.
I do think
But
they, well, maybe
not
not
as
as quick,
quick.
but that definitely helped them. Definitely helped them.
And also, we have to mention that I think it's funny that during the Black Sabbath years, the reason he left and stuff, there's some conflicts with the band members because Ozzy was always getting so fucked up and out of control. And even Iommi had reportedly punched him out and has pulled him off of Geezer Butler fighting in a hotel room. So you could see that sometimes the marriage is a little rocky. Is that true?
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes it is. I mean, it's just one of those things that happen. And
but look, we wouldn't have got Ozzy Osbourne with Randy if that didn't really happen, right? If they didn't take that break.
No, we wouldn't have got that. We really wouldn't have the continuance of him putting music out. Like Exodus, we did a festival with them in 2018 in Norway, and they were on fire. He was great that night. The whole band was really good. I watched the whole set, and he was just sounded really good. So 70, he was 69 then, 70 years old. He's still belting it out. That's what I want to be.
I have tickets to his next gig, but he's been putting it off for 2 years.
Oh, because he's had some health problems. But
also, I think that, again, if he didn't take that break and Ozzy wasn't formed and this and that, then we don't get Dio in Sabbath either.
And then you don't get Dio solo anywhere. So it's kind of like the Bay Area thrash metal.
Things happen for reasons sometimes, right?
Connected, and we'll get into that.
You know, things happen for a reason.
Yes.
And in this instance, it worked on both sides. You got Black Sabbath, and I think Testament was on the Dehumanizer tour.
So were we? So was that?
On parts on legs of it, right?
We were on the full United States tour. 32 shows on the Dehumanizer. Testament did Europe. We did the States.
Oh, see, but and then who knows if you would have got that if Ozzy was still. Things always happen, and then things do happen, and then it changes history. And in this case, I think you can't go wrong with both things happening.
Nope, you never know. So you guys, leave me comments on what you think about Ozzy, and also who else you'd like us to riff on and talk about, and maybe our own personal history with that artist or how we remember them first. We'd love to. Leave us comments. Obviously, share this. And what else you got on this, Walt?
Well, the last thing I want to say is that I was at Diary of a Madman at the Cow Palace.
I was there too.
And I thought that was the best show that I'd probably ever seen with the production. I think that was before bands did overproduction with the stage. The castle.
That's when he had the mid or the dwarf or whatever, whatever it was.
And also Don Airy up in the keyboardist
hanging from a noose.
And he had a balcony with where the keyboardist was. But it was an elaborate setup and light show, and I think that changed the production of other bands too and influenced them. But what a great artist.
Definitely a great show. Ozzy, we love you.
Ozzy.
Leave me comments. Subscribe to my channel. This is all about Ozzy. We'll see you guys soon.